Listen, there are so many type of people in the world. There are Americans, Indians, North Indians, South Indians. How will you learn so many styles to impress all these kind of people and make them like you in just 5 minutes? So our brain always likes anybody who is like us, and our brain rejects anybody who's not like us. Lock method takes advantage of this science and gives you the ability to make anybody like you in just 5 minutes. Here is the technique. Let's learn what is this lock method. It's a very simple method, and the best part, this method helps you to get along with anybody from any culture. It works on the science that our mind likes anything or anybody which is like itself. Example, if I'm naughty, I like people who are naughty. If I'm very reserved, I like people who are reserved. So our brain always likes anybody who is like us, and our brain rejects anybody who's not like us. In fact, we start judging people who are not like us. Example, if you are someone who likes to dress up in colorful clothes, be ready, always have the right color combination for shoes with clothes and everything, you will always be impressed by people who do the same thing. Correct? You will like those people. But now, if you find someone who's not careful about their dressing, not careful about time, not careful about combinations of what they wear, and if you like that and if they don't do it, it's easy to judge those people. कि यार क्या, they don't take care of clothing, they don't take care of their dressing, सोच के आना चाहिए क्या पहनना है किस environment में. These kind of judgments happen to us when we see people, when we hear people, when we meet people who are not like us. Lock method takes advantage of this science and gives you the ability to make anybody like you in just 5 minutes. Let's learn how. In the lock method, first I'll tell you what is LOC. LOC means listen, observe, and copy. Very simple. Write it down. Listen, observe, and copy. Let's go one step at a time. Listen for what? Write down these words. Listen for words with language, English or Hindi. There are different words that people use. Listen for words, listen for tone, and listen for pitch. The moment you listen to this, while you're listening, also observe their body language. Very important. Observe how are they sitting? How are they standing? Are they, while talking, moving a lot, or are they just listening to you like this? How are they talking to you? So listen, observe, and now copy. What does that mean? You don't have to do anything in this technique. All you need to do is repeat what the other person is saying. Example, if the other person says, I'm interested in team building, you need to repeat, oh, you're interested in team building, is it? So when I was doing training programs for corporate companies, I would talk to clients. And I remember this one mistake I made. A client had called and said, I'm interested in a team dynamics workshop. And I said, oh, so you want a team building workshop? He said, no, team dynamics workshop. Now, if you actually think about it, team dynamics and team building is the same thing. But he needed to hear what he was using as a language and word. So when I learned the rapport building method or this lock method, I actually then told him, oh, so you're talking about team dynamics workshop. He said, yes, that's what I'm talking about. See, what happens when people hear their own words back? They feel you are listening to them and they suddenly like you. Don't you like people who listen to you? Don't you like people who reflect your life into them? That is the best thing about the lock method. You don't have to learn 100 things. You just have to repeat what they are saying as words. Here's another example. Let's say if the other person says, I love traveling. Now, what if you could say, oh, really? You love traveling? Tell me more about it. Now, you are asking them more, but you're also repeating, oh, you love traveling. When you reflect that, imagine this like a mirror effect. The other person is saying something and you are being like a mirror. The other person is saying something, you're being like a mirror. And everybody loves seeing themselves. So when they see in the mirror, loves traveling, their eyes glow and they're like, oh, he understands me, he listens to me. Here's another example. Let's say if the other person says, I love working hard. Okay? Even I love working hard. Now, you may not love working hard, but you can say, oh, really? You love working hard? But tell me why. Now, you see again, because you've repeated their words, they will love you for it. So repeat their words, and now while you're repeating their words, copy their body language. Example, if they're sitting like this, you also sit like this. If they're standing like this, you also stand like this. If they're standing on one leg, off balance like this, you can also do that. Be careful here. Don't mimic it. You don't have to be 100% mimicry, but like 80% similar body language. Now, how can you do this on an email? Emails, you can't copy body language, but you can copy words and repeat that back. Example, if someone starts an email with you saying hello, and then they start the body, you should do the same. When you reply to them, start with hello. If they are writing hi, then you write hi. There are some people who use the word dear and your name. You should do the same thing with them. Then the first thing they will read the email is dear. something that they'll do themselves, they will suddenly like you. In the email body also, use words used by them. They will love it. In the signature, check what kind of signature they have. Create a similar signature for yourself and then respond to the mail. They will love you for it. How do you do this on the phone? Listen to the words, repeat the words. Listen to the language, repeat the language. Now comes the most critical part about words: tone and pitch and speed. If they love talking soft, go soft. If they are very high on tone, you can talk high. Example: if you talk to a Punjabi person who's very high on pitch in a very soft tone, they won't relate to you. But at the same time, if you raise your voice a little bit, just a little bit, to match their frequency, see, frequency is matching, they will like you. The same thing can be done when you're physically meeting people. You can copy their body language. I'll give you an example. I taught this lock method technique to once a company called Godrej, and we were doing sales training for them. And we were doing training for a particular team who was responsible for selling big furniture orders, Godrej interior to be very precise. So big furniture orders to government organizations. Now there was this one sales guy, business development manager. He went to this government officer and he implemented this for the first time. He said, I started listening to this person and I repeated his tone, I repeated his pitch, I used the same words back with him, he said. Not just that, he said I observed his body language and I copied his body language. The way he was sitting, I was sitting. The way he was moving, I was moving. And then to create more similarity between him and the other person, he started asking him questions related to the observation that he had around him. Example: this government officer had Satya Sai Baba's photograph on his table. He just had to ask a question. Oh, do you believe in Satya Sai Baba? That's it. The other person went on for 10 minutes. There was another picture which was very interesting picture. Behind the government officer, where he was sitting, there was a picture of Walt Disney. So he asked him, he said, what is this picture? Again, he went on for another 10 minutes. The more he spoke to him about something that he's interested in, how do you know? Observe. Observe the person's body language. Observe the person's surrounding. You're always surrounding yourself by things that you are interested in. Correct? Believe it or not, when he implemented this lock method with the K, now what is the K part? Again, I'll repeat: listen, observe, copy, and the K part is kindness. Demonstrate kindness. Be kind with the other person. Many times people will say things that you may not like. It's okay. Be kind. The more kind you are, the more compassionate you are the opposite of judging. People who judge, nobody likes them. Example: if the other person is saying, I love traveling, and you're like, traveling? यार उसमें ना time बहुत waste होता है. You see now what happened? You judged their view. You judged their world. Nobody likes judgment about their world or about their views in life. So what do? Remain kind with that person. The more kind you are with the person, the more they will like you. But only kindness is not enough. You need to do it with listening, observing, and copying what you heard and what you observed. Believe it or not, this person who did this lock method while also demonstrating kindness to this government officer came back with an order of 1 crore. Is it worth it? 100% worth it. I remember there was another gentleman who learned the lock method with me. Next day, he came back to the workshop. We were doing a 2 days workshop that time. And he told me that yesterday evening was the best time he had with his son, who's 1 year old. I was interested. I was like, why? With 1-year-old baby, what happened? He said, I applied the lock method on my son. He said, my son, since the time he's born, has never slept with me. For some reason, he says every time his son comes close to him, starts crying. Now, for you and me, it seems like a small thing, but for a father, that's a very big deal. He said, I had emotionally started being hurt that why my own son doesn't sleep with me. He always gets crying, very agitated every time he comes close to his father. So he said, last night when I went home, my son was lying down. He said, I lied down on the ground about 1 feet away from him so that he doesn't cry. And when he lied down, he took his hands up and legs up just like a baby. And then he looked at the baby. And then the baby started making baby sounds. Obviously, right? He started making baby sounds. Then the baby giggled. He giggled at the baby. And then the baby kind of turned. So he said, I also turned. He said, for the next 10-15 minutes, everything that my son did, I did. Everything that he used in his words with that little limited language and in that age of 1, I repeated those words back to him. And in my heart, I just kept saying, I love you, I love you. And he said, with that kind of lock method, that night, he said, his son slept with him all night, peacefully, very comfortable with him for the first time. When this guy shared this result with us, Everybody in the room was emotional. He was also very emotional. But how did this happen? Lock method. Even at a very early age, even though the boy was 1 year old, his brain works the same way. His brain likes people who is like itself because his father was matching the body language, matching the tone, matching the pitch, matching the words, gibberish words of a child. The child started loving him. Don't we do this very naturally? Don't we do this when you meet children? You naturally go down when you talk to children. Correct. Because naturally we somewhere understand that if I want someone to like me, I have to be a little bit like them. If you start applying the lock method, I'm telling you, you will get people to love you, like you, being impressed by you just 5 minutes. Do this and tell me in the comment section later. Come back to this video and give me results. Did you use it? Who did you impress? Whom did you connect this technique with? I'll tell you whom I connected it with. First time I did it with my father. And I remember that time I and my father hardly used to talk. Like in 5 minutes, we'll get into an argument or we'll finish the discussion. That time I remember he was sitting on the sofa on this side and I was sitting this side like this. So we were not even like facing, we were sitting like this. He was sitting cross legs, so I was sitting cross legs. Whatever words he started using, I started repeating those words to him. I remember he was saying, "Beta thoda raat ko ghar pe jaldi aa jaya karo." I said, "Ha dad, raat ko jaldi aa jaya karunga." Now you see what I did? I was repeating his words. I was using his tone. I was using his pitch. We spoke for about 10 minutes like this. Generally इधर उधर की बातें हो रही थी. I got a phone call and I said, "Dad, मैं वापस आके बात करता हूँ आपसे." He said, "No, no problem." So I got up and I was about to leave. And my dad, and I had not taken the phone yet. I was about to pick up the phone. And my dad said, "Mitesh, hold." I said, "हाँ dad, क्या हुआ?" And I remember he asked me, he said, "पिक्चर देखने चलेगा?" I was shocked. My dad wanted to spend 3 hours with me. I really couldn't believe it. True story, that day we went for a movie. And he's the one who's always got me into the habit of watching English movies. I still remember the theater we went. I still remember the movie we saw. It was a great experience. Believe it or not, that was the first time I and my dad had long discussions without any argument. Why? Because in my mind, I was not judging him. I was constantly being kind with him. And I was listening to him. I was observing him. And I was simply repeating everything that he was doing back to him. I was being like a beautiful, kind mirror to him. It was so easy for him to like me when he was seeing a part of him in me. Isn't that amazing? So tell me, where will you apply this? With whom will you apply this? And when you get the results, please do come and share with me in the comments below. Okay. Now, if you want to be part of this complete NLP workshop, where we teach you more such amazing stuff about how you can influence your own mind and influence other people, come and be part of the first lesson of NLP, which is completely free for you. It'll give you complete clarity on what NLP is and how you can use this to create magical results in your life. Link is in the description below. Take advantage right now while it is free. Check it out. I hope it's still free. Register right now. And yes, if you really want to hear more from such amazing content from me, hit the subscribe button right now and hit the bell icon. So next time I create such amazing videos, you definitely get a notification. See you soon. Bye-bye.